After testing out of introductory math in college, I avoided any math or science classes like the plague. But when I decided to go to graduate school to become a teacher, once again I was faced with my arch nemesis and had to take the math portion of the exam. So I contacted a friend. I remember sitting in a coffee shop with him, going through math problem after math problem, trying to prepare myself for that portion of the exam, which after a ton of work I ended up passing, but it was not easy. In fact, it felt like pulling teeth for me. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong impression of me. I have always been a decent student. In fact, I have become a better student throughout the years. In high school, I did fine. I think I graduated with a 3.2 GPA. In college, I ended up graduating with a 3.8 something, summa cum laude, and I did the same thing in graduate school. So I feel confident explaining the strategies that helped me be a successful student. Now, there's a theory out there that people are either left-brained or right-brained. The left brain being more scientific, methodical, analytical. The right brain being more creative, artistic, musical. Now, given my tendency to gravitate towards lengthy explanations, essays, English literature, and my avoidance of math, science, calculations, I would say that I'm more right-brained. But since we live in a world that seems to favor left brain modalities, especially as it relates to school success, I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips for being successful in school, especially if you're right-brained like myself. So habit number 1, set goals for yourself. There's a famous study done by Dr. Gail Matthews of Dominican University, where she compared 2 groups, one experimental, one control, to identify what impact goal setting had on participants. And the participants that wrote down their goals were 42% more likely to achieve their goals just by writing them down. So that's the biggest step. Write down whatever goal you want. And the easiest way to write a goal is write down what grade you want in a class. Now, what I recommend doing is going into Google Tasks, listing out each of your classes, and putting the grade you want to see at the end of the semester in those classes on Google Tasks. And the next step, for each of those goals, say for example, earn an A in chemistry, break that into smaller subtasks. So I need to do this homework. I need to complete this exam. That's my first piece of advice. Make sure you write down your goals. The second piece of advice is limiting your goals. I started getting really serious about goal setting when I learned about the 5-25 system because I saw the impact it had on my life. Now here's the system. You write down 25 things that you want to accomplish or want in life. Then you go through that list and you circle the top 5, which can be pretty tough for people who have a lot of different ideas about what they want. You take those top 5 goals and you only focus on them, and you deny yourself focusing on the other 20 goals until you accomplish one of those top 5 goals. Now, if you're a student and you're looking how to implement this 5-25 strategy, here's my recommendation. Write down the grade you want in each of those 5 different classes and then focus on those things. If you're taking 6 classes, there might be a class that's easy to manage and you don't need to set a goal around it because you're naturally enjoying it and it's one of your strengths. But let's say you have 3 classes that are particularly difficult, really zone in on those and apply that goal setting energy to be successful in those. Habit number 2, you have to find a way to make learning fun. When we're little kids, learning is naturally fun. You run outside, you take a stick and dig it around in the dirt, you build little things, you love to learn. But as we go through school, we lose that passion because we're forced to learn about a lot of different subjects that we might not be passionate about. But somehow, you have to find a way to make learning fun. Now, I'll give you an example of this. When I was in college, I was really struggling to keep up in an astronomy class. The material was so dense, we were learning about black holes and supernovas. It was a lot of science and calculations, and I just couldn't care less. But I needed to take the class in order to move forward in my degree. So I had to figure out a way, how do I engage with this class? And here's what I did. I would sit in the lecture hall with hundreds of other students, and I would have my notebook, and I would start to draw pictures of what I was learning about. And then I would write little raps. I'd make little rhyming stories about how a black hole was about to implode and things like that. I wish I could go back and spit a rap for you right now. Writing those things in rhymes helped me remember what I was learning about and make it easy for me to repeat those things and memorize it. So whatever it takes for you, you've got to figure out a way to make what you're learning about interesting. When I reached graduate school, I was once again faced with the same dilemma. I had to figure out a way to take all these different research papers and topics on a topic that I was interested in, education, and figure out how to learn that information when it was broken down into these complex research studies. And one day, I was sitting in my house complaining to my wife about how much I disliked reading these research papers, and she brought over a highlighter to me and said, "You have to find a way to make this interesting. Highlight information, circle keywords, write things down in the notes column." And so when I started to do that, when I started to actually take my papers and get physical with them, highlighting things, drawing pictures, writing questions, that helped me engage further with the topic and not feel so bored. So once again, I was returned to that challenge of how do I make learning engaging for me? So tip number 2, somehow, some way, make learning fun for you. Okay, habit number 3, ask the teacher directly for what you need. This one's so obvious, it actually makes me angry that I didn't do it earlier. But remember this, teachers make the tests, they make the exams, they put the grades in the grade book. If you go to the teacher directly and say, "Hey, I want to earn an A on your exam. I want to get a B+ on this paper," whatever your goal is, tell them your goal, share with them what you're currently doing, and ask for their feedback and recommendations on how you can more effectively prepare for what it is they've assigned. Now, I know a lot of students have anxiety around communicating with their teachers. But remember this, if you put someone on a pedestal, you force them to look down on you. So approach them directly. Help them get to know you and your needs, and they will help you most likely. Now, there's a few bad apples out there who are just mean and aren't going to be helpful, and you've got to figure out another route to getting your needs met. But most teachers want you to be successful, and if you speak to them and share your SMART goal with them, they're going to help you achieve it. And remember, they've got years of practice exams that they can give to you so you can prepare for those tests, most likely. So if you start to approach your teacher, most teachers are going to respect your hustle and help you navigate their class so you can be successful. Now, I once had a teacher in graduate school who, no matter what I put down on paper, even if I did a ton of research, spent a lot of time on it, got feedback from my peers, when I turned things in, I kept getting low grades. So what I did was I went to her office hours and I sat in there and I had her walk me through every section of the paper to explicitly explain what I needed to do differently in order to earn an A on that paper. And because I went through that process with her, I think she realized that if she was going to grade me harshly, I was going to come and join her office hours and spend a lot of time with her. And I started to get better grades after having that experience with a teacher. So that's something I recommend. Go directly to the teacher, stage a protest in their office hours, and make sure they give you the exact information you need in order to be successful in their class. Another thing you can do is ask for samples of work they graded as an A. Ask them to show you, what does success on this assignment look like to you? I want to know so I can reach the goals you've set out for us as students. Another thing you can do is turn your work in earlier and ask for feedback so that you can improve it before the deadline. If you do things like this, I guarantee your grades will improve. Remember, the squeaky wheel gets the oil in most situations in life, so keep on squeaking. Habit number 4, create an error log. Error logs are one of my favorite things in the world, and I want to explain to you exactly what it is. So an error log is a tool for you to identify the things you actually need to spend more time studying. It's a powerful and simple tool to focus on what I call deliberate learning and deliberate practice. So here's how you can create an error log. Take a piece of paper and divide it into 3 columns. On the first column, you can put don't know. These are things you just don't know the answers to, and you need to fill that column in with it. The middle column, you can put somewhat know, and the other column, you can put no. Now take a practice exam. A good way to do this is if you're preparing for the driver's exam or something that you have multiple practice exams for. Take that practice exam and identify all the questions you get wrong. Take those questions and move them into the don't know column. For things that you weren't sure about but somehow you guessed correctly, you can put them in the somewhat know column. Then look at the don't know column, identify the concepts that you don't know, take another practice exam, ideally a different one, and see if you don't know those concepts anymore. If you figured those things out, you can move them into the somewhat know column or the no column if you feel really strong in those concepts now. So what are you doing here? Well, the same thing with this process of deliberate learning is what great musicians do to learn new songs. They don't go and play the whole song over and over. What they do is they focus on specific sections of the song that they need to improve on. They practice that until it's perfected, and then they play the whole song again. Many students struggle because when they're studying, they waste their energy studying everything, the things they already know, the things they don't know, and the things they somewhat know. But if you want to go from good to great in a class, you have to deliberately focus on the things that you do not know and move them into the somewhat know or no column. As you practice this process, you'll slowly get better and better at the things that are holding you back from being successful in a class. And you'll stop wasting so much energy on things that you already know and don't need to focus on. Habit number 5, get lots of self-care. Now, as a high performer, someone who sets goals, getting self-care can be easy to neglect. And we often forget about it until it's too late and we're burnt out. But you don't want to get there. So here's how you can approach self-care. One way to think of it is the idea of a bowl. A bowl is useful not just because it's a bowl, but because of the empty space of things that it can hold. In the same way, your studying, your active strategies, all the things you're filling your day up with are useful, but you also want to create that empty space so that you have time to relax, rest, and rejuvenate to do well on tests, exams, and projects. Try not to think of self-care as an action, but as a lifestyle. You want to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. You want to spend 30 minutes a day exercising and getting sunlight. You want to make sure you're eating food that replenishes you, nourishes you, not things that are going to spike your energy, such as high sugar, high fat things, and then lower your energy right after that. Also, for college students out there, I know there's a ton of peer pressure to go out there and party and have a good time. But remember, if you're waking up hungover, your brain is not functioning at full capacity. So limit your alcohol, substance intake, especially when you're preparing for something big like a test, exam, or final project. Additionally, you're going to want to do things that relax you. I love to watch shows that make me laugh, like Silicon Valley. Spend time out in nature, soaking up the green and blue of the sky. Finding things that relax you and take your mind off studying is just as important as the time you spend studying. Doing all this is going to let your mind relax, form new neural pathways in your brain, and allow you to be the best student you can be. So those are my top 5 tips for being a successful student and getting the grades you want. Put these into practice and watch your grades rise and your confidence skyrocket. I hope this video helped you feel enthusiastic about setting goals and taking daily action around achieving your goals. Now, if you have a favorite study habit that I did not include in this video, please drop it in the comment below. I'd love to know what your favorite study habit is so I can include it in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe, give it a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm wishing you all the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.